What's more terrifying, a man who kills 33 young boys while dressing up as a clown, or a soft-spoken father who murders families, then returns home to kiss his daughter goodnight? One lived beneath the circus lights of suburban parties. The other sat in your church pew every Sunday. Two monsters, two masks, but only one question. Who was more dangerous? Stay with me until the end. We're about to pull back the curtain. Welcome to Red Dossier.
Before we move on to the next part, please give me a like and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for listening.
Before the headlines, before the handcuffs, before the horror, there were two men, one a suburban contractor with a flair for performance, the other a church council president with a quiet smile. Their names were John Wayne Gacy and Dennis Lynn Rader. On the surface, they lived ordinary lives, productive, polite, even respectable. But beneath those masks lived something far more sinister, something calculated and cold. John Wayne Gacy was born in 1942 in Chicago, Illinois, to a working-class family of Polish descent. His childhood was marked by emotional abuse from his alcoholic father, who ridiculed him and questioned his masculinity. Gacy, desperate for approval, learned early to smile when he wanted to scream. He entered the business world with surprising success, becoming a contractor and community figure. He even posed as Pogo the Clown at children's parties, an act that would later turn chillingly symbolic. Dennis Rader, born in 1945 in Pittsburgh, Kansas, grew up in a conservative Lutheran household. Unlike Gacy, Rader did not suffer physical abuse, but his childhood bore signs of emotional detachment. He described early fantasies of bondage and control, and admitted to torturing animals, an early red flag in criminal psychology. After serving in the Air Force, he settled into suburban life in Wichita, working for a home security company and serving as president of his local church's council. To neighbors, he was the helpful, quiet family man. Both men knew how to blend in. Gacy relied on charm, parties, and civic connections. Rader relied on routine, church-going, and polite conversation. They weren't anomalies in their communities. They were their communities. That's what made their crimes so jarring. The betrayal wasn't just personal, it was social. These men didn't hide in the shadows, they hid in plain sight. Psychologically, both exhibited traits consistent with antisocial personality disorder: lack of empathy, disregard for societal rules, manipulation, and a complete absence of remorse. Yet their expressions of pathology were different. Gacy craved affirmation and dominance, especially over young men. His crimes were sexual, brutal, and frantic. Rader, by contrast, sought control. He planned, watched, recorded. He needed his victims to know they were powerless. When experts later examined their lives, the question was not just how they committed their crimes, but why they were so hard to spot. Gacy shook hands with First Lady Rosalind Carter while hiding over 20 corpses in his crawl space. Rader sent letters to the police signed BTK, daring them to catch him while sitting through Sunday service like any devoted father. This is where their stories begin, not with blood, but with the silence before it. Two men, two masks, and a society unprepared to see through either. John Wayne. Gacy didn't stalk his victims in the dark or ambush them in alleys. He lured them. Young men, often teenagers, drawn by the promise of work, quick money, or simply a friendly face in a hostile city. Once inside his house, they were offered drinks, jokes, and trust. Gacy would sometimes perform magic tricks, one of which involved handcuffs. "You know the trick," he'd say. "See if you can get out." But there was no trick, only a final moment of normalcy before domination began. Victims were assaulted, strangled, and hidden under his house, not just one or two, 33 confirmed bodies, 26 buried in the crawl space, others discarded into the Des Plaines River. Each killing followed a pattern, one that made Gacy feel in control of his secret world beneath suburbia. Dennis Rader, by contrast, treated each murder as a project. He called them hits or phases, documented in coded journals. He didn't invite victims in. He invaded. After extensive surveillance, he would break into their homes, often in daylight, and restrain them with ropes or cords he brought in a hit kit. His first known murders, the Otero family in 1974, included not just a mother or a child, but the entire family, methodically subdued. Over the years, he killed 10 people. Unlike Gacy's frenzy, Rader's violence was deliberate, ritualistic. He wrote letters to newspapers, left clues for detectives, and sought attention under the name BTK for bind, torture, kill. For him, the act was both psychological fulfillment and performance. He needed recognition as much as control. The motives of the two killers diverge in important ways. Gacy's violence stemmed largely from repressed sexual identity, internalized homophobia, and narcissism. He attacked what he simultaneously desired and despised: young men who embodied a freedom he denied himself. Rader's drive, however, was rooted in power and fantasy. He fantasized about binding women since childhood, and later escalated to murder not out of lust, but a compulsion to enact his fantasy of total dominance. While Gacy could not resist his urges for long, Rader demonstrated chilling self-discipline, sometimes waiting years between killings. Their capacity for compartmentalization remains one of the most terrifying aspects of their psychology. Gacy ran a successful construction business and participated in political functions. Rader was married, fathered 2 children, and enforced neighborhood codes for the city of Park City, Kansas. Both men maintained these ordinary lives for years while killing in the shadows of them. Eventually, arrogance unraveled them. Gacy grew careless, keeping personal belongings of victims and drawing suspicion through his connection to a missing boy. When police obtained a search warrant, the stench from beneath his floorboards told the story. Rader, after years of silence, couldn't resist the spotlight. In 2004, he reignited contact with police, taunting them. He asked if they could trace a floppy disk. The answer was yes. The metadata led to his church computer and to Dennis Lynn Rader. The moment was almost absurd. A man who outwitted investigators for 3 decades, undone by a basic digital footprint. Yet the story doesn't end at their arrests. Their crimes left a ripple effect across families, communities, and law enforcement practices. Gacy's case raised questions about background checks, youth safety, and the blind spots of charisma. Rader's deception forced institutions, churches, neighborhoods, even his own family, to examine the comfort of assumed safety. People began asking a haunting question. If someone like that could do these things, who else might be hiding in plain sight? Both men committed acts of cruelty beyond most imaginations. But what may be even more unsettling is how long it took for anyone to believe it was possible. The crawl space and the coded journals were not the beginning of their darkness. They were the culmination of lives lived in perfect disguise. The fall of John Wayne. Gacy and Dennis Rader did not come with dramatic shootouts or desperate chases. It came with paperwork, quiet errors, and the slow, grinding wheels of investigation. Gacy was arrested in December 1978, following weeks of surveillance and a final search of his house that revealed more than anyone had imagined. Beneath the floorboards of his suburban Chicago home, police discovered a graveyard, layer after layer of decomposing bodies, some stacked so tightly together that it was difficult to determine where one ended and another began. The smell alone told the truth, before the forensics did. He confessed to killing 33 young men, though many believe the true number may be higher. In 1980, he was sentenced to death. He spent 14 years on death row, painting portraits of clowns, reading the Bible, and declaring his innocence until the very end. On May 10, 1994, he was executed by lethal injection. His final words were, grotesquely, "Kiss my ass." Dennis Rader's reckoning came decades later in a sterile interview room in Wichita, Kansas. After his arrest in 2005, he stunned even seasoned detectives with his demeanor. He was calm, cooperative, and disturbingly proud. He detailed each murder without emotion, as if reading minutes from a meeting. He corrected the investigators when they got facts wrong. He even showed them drawings of how he had planned to pose victims. There was no plea for mercy, no attempt to claim mental illness. In court, he apologized to the families, but even his apology sounded rehearsed. He was sentenced to 10 consecutive life terms without the possibility of parole. He now spends his days in solitary confinement at El Dorado Correctional Facility, writing letters and reading the Bible, the same book he held at church just months before his arrest. The long-term impact of these two men extends far beyond their convictions. Gacy forced a national reckoning with the concept of stranger danger, but more importantly, with the failure of systems that should have protected vulnerable boys. His case revealed how charm, position, and political access can shield someone from scrutiny. Rader, on the other hand, shattered the illusion of the safe community protector. He was the man people trusted with their homes, their children, their prayers. His case made it clear that evil does not always look like a monster. Sometimes it wears khakis, nods politely, and never raises its voice. When comparing the two, the contrasts are sharp but revealing. Gacy killed in bulk, driven by distorted desire and self-hatred. Rader killed slowly, meticulously, driven by a need to orchestrate fear. Gacy sought chaos. Rader sought control. One killed for the gratification of destruction, the other for the ritual of power. And yet both thrived under the same societal blindness, the assumption that respectability and evil cannot coexist. Their legacies live on not as cautionary tales, but as living questions. How many others still walk unnoticed? What blind spots remain in our communities? Could someone so seemingly harmless, so utterly mundane, carry a secret that horrific? These questions are not meant to induce fear, but awareness. Because the true lesson of Gacy and Rader is not just about the nature of monsters. It's about the nature of masks and how desperately we want to believe in them. In the end, Gacy's smile and Rader's silence were not accidents. They were weapons. And we were not just their victims. We were their audience. They fooled neighbors, friends, even their own families, not with force, but with normalcy. They didn't just kill, they blended in. And that's what should haunt us the most. If you found this story compelling, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss another chilling case from Red Dossier. Now, I leave you with this. If both John Wayne Gacy and Dennis Rader sat at your dinner table, would you be able to tell which one was the killer? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Until next time, stay sharp, stay curious, and never trust the mask too easily.